Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
He's taken another one, and Howard Foster has stopped it! Wow! That is going to be controversial!
That's a crunching right hand, and that must finish it! It must finish it!
Taylor trying to catch himself, using his jab, eats a right hand, another right hand, and he goes down! Oh my goodness!
The dream is made real! Ricky Hatton rocks the world with a truly stunning win over a modern legend! He is the champion of the world!
Yes, people. We're back again. Letting the audio run out as we do. No, but back again. Raps on TV, reporting fresh out of London. Busy, semi-busy weekend of boxing. Looking forward to chopping it up with all of you guys. For those that do call in and those that listen in the future, don't forget everywhere you need to be tagging or tuning into Raps on TV on our social media with Instagram, Facebook and YouTube, Raps on TV. Appreciate all the support as per usual. It's going to feel a bit like a Matchroom show today with their back-to-back events. But I'm here with my co-host, Rafi. Rafi, how you doing, sir?
Not too bad, Coach. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Enjoy the boxing this weekend?
Yeah, it was a great card. The main event went as planned, but yeah, really good action on the undercard especially.
Yeah, exactly. I think more than probably from us being in the arena, cough. But we were in the arena, so yeah, you notice as soon as the Buatsi fight kind of finished, most people, including Dillian White and his goons, all kind of got up and left. So, but no, it was packed arena. Good to see Charlie Edwards making his sort of London home defence for the newly WBC belt he's acquired. But really great action. So guys, this week's agenda, obviously we're going to talk about the Matchroom show, which featured the likes of Josh Buatsi, Buatsi Okolie, Charlie Edwards, as we said, and not else other than Shannon Courtney, who made her debut as well. They're also going to get into this weekend's boxing, which is the Matchroom card, which is taking place in Liverpool. And you've got Smith taking on Egerton. You've got Anthony Fowler taking on Fitzgerald. You've got David Price there. So, yeah, and you've got Robbie Davis Jr. So you've got a stacked sort of local card that's going to be packed. From what I understand, most of the arenas sold out as well. So for those of you that are going to be in the house, I think there's going to be some great entertainment for you. But looking forward to watching that on Saturday on Sky Sports. And guys, don't forget, if you are going to call in today, the number is 01506 243 403. I repeat, 01506 243 403. So listen, I think there's no real better place to start other than Edwards versus Moreno and get that out of the way. I mean, I felt, overall it was not a surprise, but it was a slight shock that he would headline a card in London. But I think Matchroom chose wisely with the Matchroom with the Copper Box Arena. Location's a bit different, but overall it's a nice venue. What did you feel about the Edwards performance on the night and what Moreno brought to the table?
I thought, in hindsight, obviously it was a difference in levels. Yeah. And obviously you have to fight your mandatory and whatnot, but Charlie Edwards did what he had to do. If truth be told, I didn't know much about Moreno pre-fight, but Edwards clearly showed that there's a reason he's world champion, and you'd think that he'd probably either want to step up in opposition or move weight now. Yeah,
and I mean, actually, you hit the nail on the head when you've spoken about levels. It was quite clear on the night that Moreno really only had one game plan, which was to continually come forward, and fair play to him because he did that. But he wasn't really being active in terms of throwing punches, landing punches, or do anything to really disturb Charlie Edwards, in my opinion. We even saw a bit of showboating, Billy Joe style. Looking into the wings, and that was really good to see from him, because for me, I felt this is a guy that's come back with a really prestigious belt, fighting in London. We know the backstory, and it's a super proud moment for him. And I felt he delivered, and he kind of passed with flying colours, because you're going to look back and watch that fight and think, well, actually, he didn't even struggle.
Yeah, and on that note, I think it's also worth mentioning that was a really nice touch at the end with the belt from Maurizio Sullivan.
Do you want to expand? Because a lot of people may not have heard about that.
Maurizio Sullivan, chairman of the WBC, went to Charlie Edwards and his mum after the fight, and he presented her with her own personalised WBC belt as and symbolism for her, as a testimony for how well she'd done to overcome cancer.
Yeah, exactly. And you could see, I think everyone was kind of touched to watch that. I mean, I remember getting back home and thinking, oh, that's a really nice sort of gesture.
Did they not show it in the arena? I thought.
No, they didn't, because obviously by that time everyone would have left. Yeah, because he was there wasn't even a float after him. So once he had left, only the media stayed around and everyone emptied out. So by that time, even I was making my way back because I wasn't in the changing room. So no, I think it was a really touching moment. I think it's really quite timely for the WBC because they're getting a bit of stick with this whole Dillian Whyte fiasco. And Eddie Hearn obviously writing a letter and reports of what he stated on that case for Dillian Whyte to become a mandatory for Deontay Wilder. But yeah, Edwards, I mean, what really impressed me was that he was able to sort of use the jab sort of like all throughout the night. Moreno, for his ability, you know, we looked at the Garcia Cheeseman fight and thought that was...
Could be a banana skin.
I think you said it was banana skin. Most people were backing Cheeseman, and you're right, it became a banana skin. So they had a little bit of that to it, you know, there was a bit of that sort of source of, is this going to be too much? You know, Edwards has lost. It's not Edwards is coming in as an undefeated prospect.
Exactly.
So I think that was interesting, but, you know, Edwards really kind of showed a lot of grit, hardly got hit, showed that he's a skillful boxer. And I think if you're looking at, 116 pounds, you're going to say, you know what, he is probably one of the top guys out there. You know, I look at some of the other champions. Selby lost on the weekend as well in Mexico. Randomly, I read that he was fighting 5,000 feet above sea level. So, and he didn't prepare.
Crazy.
Didn't prepare enough. Yeah, so he only got into Mexico 5 days before. That doesn't help for your preparation. So you're looking at Edwards, and you think, actually, you know what, he could hold on to that belt for quite a while, maybe even unify.
Yeah, it's become a real thing recently, and especially in the case of sorry, name's gone off the top of my head. Scott Quigg.
Yes.
When he went stateside, he had a similar problem of coping. Obviously, that was a bit of a different mechanism, but that principle of being underprepared, going to a different continent.
Yeah, and it's that time to adjust, right? We see a lot of the US fighters seem to do that here.
Yeah.
I think the top elite will do it reverse. So, you know, I doubt Joshua's going to go to New York without the suitable amount of time to get his body prepared.
100%.
But yeah, for Selby's point of view, because I saw the finish. So I didn't see the fight. I just saw the finish, and it didn't look like that much of a gruesome body shot.
Yeah.
But again, body shots I always know take their toll. But he got hit, kind of stepped back, looked at the guy, and then straight on his knees, and then got counted out. So yeah, it looked like a lively arena. Hopefully those guys all get back home safe. But yeah, it was definitely interesting for him. But from Edwards' point of view, I think take my hat off to him. Hope that he gets more support in the way he did on Saturday. And definitely look forward to seeing him kind of filling out bigger cards. So two of the other names, and we'll start with, I'm going to be biased here, I'm going to start with the Ghanaian Joshua Buatsi.
You have to. You have to.
I like the way you said that.
You have to.
So, and what do you think of the performance?
Before I answer that, he's the biggest talent in world boxing. He's genuine. For me, he's the biggest
Even
talent.
Bigger than like a Ryan Garcia? De La Hoya's golden boy?
I think Ryan Garcia, because he looks the part, just comes across, marketability-wise as the complete package. But as a fighter, you see small little chinks that need fine-tuning. You don't see that with Buatsi.
Yeah, fair enough.
Strangely enough, if he was thrown into...
I just don't want to be accused of being biased, so I've got to let you say it.
No, don't worry. But, if he was thrown into the deep end tomorrow, you'd have less worries about him than someone like Anthony Yard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%.
But then maybe you could say it's because the Olympic fine-tuning. You just sort of... sandpaper off all the cracks. Yeah.
And I think for me, in comparison to Yard, which a lot of people would bring after Saturday nights, I think with both of them, the light heavyweight division is just so stacked. I mean, we've got Gvozdyk fighting on Saturday.
Yeah.
The division is just so stacked with killers that...
And domestically too.
But I think domestically, after that performance, Conroy, I'm not saying is the level of not Buglioni, so Jose Burton and whatnot, or Yard. But I think it's the way that Buatsi finished him. I mean, he gave him a clean right hand to sort of put him down the first time.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you're kind of looking at his skill set, you're looking at his power. I don't think at domestic level there's anyone that's going to test him. I know Yard is in that category. I think he beats Yard off what we've seen. I think the interesting thing for him if he gets to fight Yard, which in my opinion won't happen this year, is how his chin will stand up, because Yard has got the power. He's not necessarily the highest in terms of his ring IQ. I wouldn't say it's the highest of the pecking order, but I would say he's definitely got the power, top 3. And I think that's going to be a big test for Buatsi because he is fighting guys and not really hitting him. And that's a slight problem, I would say. That's the only criticism I would say. And it sounds dumb because you're saying he should get hit. But it's like he needs to find himself being hit so he gets used to that. He can't be elusive. Or maybe he can. But I don't know if he can be elusive throughout his whole career.
It's because until you're on the receiving end of that, no one knows what's going to happen. We saw Yard get caught flush a few times in his last fight.
Yes.
You can make a case for saying maybe that wasn't someone who's a puncher.
Yeah.
But, Buatsi hasn't been hit.
Yeah, he hasn't been hit. So but I think performance-wise, you got to look at he's stepping in the right direction. He's got the British title now. I think they're clearly, and Okolie showed that as well. They're going to follow the Joshua route, not just from the Olympics, but the belts they target and when they target them.
It's a fast-tracked route.
Yeah, and what I'd say for what impressed me the most with Buatsi on the night was really it was just there was a bit more ruthlessness to him. I think at the end of the second round, Conroy tried to barge him. Maybe, he was losing the fight already, but he knew it was a difficult task. And he tries to barge Buatsi, and Buatsi just barged him back. And I was like...
He stood his ground.
Yeah, exactly.
He stood his ground.
I like
rightly
that.
so, yeah.
Yeah, so, what about you? What impressed you from Buatsi?
I thought that the finish was a bit more clinical and efficient.
Yeah.
You've seen at times, I go back to his undercard win this summer at the O2 back in July, and it wasn't the cleanest finish, whereas this was very, very efficient. After that hook, as you said, the writing was on the wall. It was just a lot more efficient how he got him out of there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. So in terms of next, there's rumours he'll probably go out June the 1st, fight on the Joshua card, stateside, exactly. Where do you want to see them? When I say where, in terms of an opponent, do you think they should take a domestic level fighter over there? Or should they try and have a look at some of the international belts, maybe some of the silver belts, maybe a Commonwealth champion? What do you think?
I think for his career, it should be a step up. But as far as marketability goes, I don't think it makes a difference because he's an unknown quantity stateside.
Yes.
No one knows who Josh Buatsi is. So maybe he wouldn't quite get the credit he would otherwise if he'd fought someone like Isaac Chilemba at the O2.
Yeah.
Over here, that would be a big win.
And
he's there for the taking. I mean, if you look at the past 5 guys, I think he's lost 4 out of 5. And they're to guys like Kovalev and Bivol. So
he's lost to Bivol,
So, Isaac Chilemba is there. He's a sitting duck.
That's an interesting one because you know what? An Isaac Chilemba really would say, especially the type of performance, would make you say, well, how quickly do we push him to world level? Because Chilemba's more or less been challenging. If you look, you're
he's
right.
been on that periphery for a while.
But when he's fought guys for their belts, so like a Bivol, I'm sure Bivol beat him and stopped him quite late.
Yeah,
I'm sure even not Joe Smith, but Ward beat him 12. Kovalev, I think, took him. So that's like he's got good pedigree on his CV. So
he does,
for Buatsi to beat a Chilemba, I think the argument about Yard personally, and the argument about Yard and Buatsi doesn't need to be made anymore because who has Yard beat? That's on Chilemba's level.
But then you could say Yard's going straight to the top of the food chain. He's attacking the guy right at the top in Kovalev if he does take that fight. Whereas Buatsi, you could say, is beaten better opponents to date, but he's taking it, well, maybe not. He's not taking it. His management team behind him, pushing him at a slower rate.
Yeah, no. And I see your logic behind that. So I'll quickly ask you before we move on and we'll stay on topic. Is Anthony Yard the A-side in the Kovalev fight?
No.
Why?
Because Kovalev is an established name in the US. Both Ward fights, of course, and he's the champion. Anthony Yard in the UK, you probably say is only marginally better known than Kovalev in the hardcore boxing fraternity because in terms of mainstream media, you could say with the Foot Asylum deal, with the Stamina for Sale, Adidas, those kind of things, that amongst people sort of in their early 20s, late teens, that he's got a bit of a standing, but not quite at that level to warrant being the A-side, in my opinion. How about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird one because I don't. There always has to be one, right? But I think you could probably make an argument if the fight happens in the UK in the Emirates as they're hoping, that really there probably is no A-side. It's not a fight. Sorry, that we talk about A-side, and the reason I say that is Kovalev's definitely more kind of like a bigger name. But even the Ward Kovalev pay-per-views didn't do great numbers, which was a shock for me because I thought these were two great fights, undefeated, like all of the belts, all the trinkets. But the numbers were very, very poor. If you compare it to like the Garcia Spence, which done nearly 350 plus, I think Ward Garcia done about 170. So the pay-per-views were poor. So it means he's not necessarily a pay-per-view established star. I think even though he got revenge on the Alvarez defeat, he still took that defeat. A lot of people still question the impact of the alcohol sort of issues that he's had in the past. Okay, you may say, does that make an A side? But I think it bears its part in the negotiation because if Yard was to beat Kovalev, most people would say Kovalev is on his last legs. Then they would say this is the peak Kovalev that took out Hopkins and so forth. So, yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you in that sense, and I would probably more lean to Kovalev. But then I think about it and I think, well, Yard is the home fighter, big arena. Commercially, he's weighing up. I think he's got more commercial deals than Kovalev.
But that's what we know of in the UK.
Yeah, but Kovalev doesn't have. You can see it. Yeah,
stateside,
he doesn't have nothing.
Home country.
In nothing in Russia. I mean, he doesn't even really. I mean, he's fought there once. He just fought the Chilemba, so Russia is not a big backer for him. Otherwise, they'll try to get that fight there. You know, especially like a Ward, they weren't getting that there. So
yeah.
That's the only. I just think it's the location. I think if it's in the States, then you have to 100% go with Kovalev. I think if it happens at the Emirates, it's a tricky one because then what Warren or Stamina for Sale are then saying is that, well, by going into this stadium, we can guarantee you probably your biggest payday.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? In a weird way. So, yeah, but that's just my point of view. But yeah, going back on the Buatsi. So Chilemba, you would say Chilemba June 1st. I like that. I would say I think that kind of an opponent. I'd like to see,
because he's on his last legs as well, you could argue.
Yeah, exactly. But for Buatsi, it's okay because he's just coming up the ranks. So it's a great opportunity to actually probably get his name out there if he can get a knockout as well. Yeah, no, I like your thoughts on that. So yeah, moving on to Okolie versus Camacho. Again, we were there next to Camacho's family.
Of course.
We're giving him heavy support. And what do you think
family?
of the fight?
I thought there was entourage.
No, it's his, so his sister and so his two sisters and the mum was at the other side. Yeah, because when I moved, I saw. I spoke to them as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. But yeah, answering your question, I thought it was a mismatch from the start. Obviously, Camacho has to defend against his mandatory was Okolie, and it was ordered by the BBOC a couple of months ago too. Yeah. So. I mean, with Wadi's record, every time he's stepped up, he's fallen short. So I think the writing was sort of on the wall from the start.
Yeah.
But Okolie did take a few shots, which he probably shouldn't have. Mm-hmm. And what did you think of the point being taken off?
Actually, I forgot about that. I'm not surprised. I think it's kind of been coming with Okolie because his style and but I do think he needs to probably finesse it because I think his style is, I'm liking his style.
Yeah.
But I think with the point, I think it was fair. You can't argue with it. But if we're being honest, I think it's probably one of those things, it's probably overdue. And he has to be careful because he's getting that reputation of being a dirty fighter, which he is. If you think about it, you know, his style is he's up in you, he wants to wrestle you, he wants to throw you. I mean, don't forget he threw him to the ground at one stage. You look back at Chamberlain, Askins.
He can get away with it at cruiserweight because obviously he's 6'5", and obviously the weight advantage. He's borderline heavyweight, but you'd think he'd be a small heavyweight, massive cruiserweight. If he moves up, I don't see him being able to do that, and then that maybe could leave his technical skill set exposed to some extent.
Yeah, and just on that, and I agree with you. I mean, I think Okolie has to park any talk of heavyweights. You know, at least top contenders.
Yeah.
I mean, if Okolie went up against Dubois, I don't even think he troubles him. I don't even think he troubles Joe Joyce, really. Not now, not in the current positions. But I think he has to park that. For me, I think with Okolie, I think that style and that roughness, I think he needs that. You can see he's getting it from his coach. But on a technical element, I think there were quite a few things you could see that he's probably learned from a Fury because he seemed quite fluid and quite leaned back, so he wasn't just like a robot, stiff. He was very loose, you know, throwing the arms, pretending to throw shots, but like also twisting his fist, turning his fist. I like that. So I was impressed with what I saw with Okolie, and it's funny because I spoke to his manager, Will, and I said, listen, I think, within 7 rounds. And I could tell he was like, 7? And I was like, yeah, I don't think Camacho's great, but I just think Okolie hasn't got rid of certain things. So when he's like in the clinch and he's just being rough, I think I could see a couple of rounds being like that. And it was like, okay. But meanwhile, he was probably thinking, fucking idiot. But yeah, he proved me wrong because I said, look, within 7. I think you called it earlier. I can't remember when you said, but
it wasn't much earlier than you, to be honest.
Yeah,
and I can see why you said 7 as well, because Wadi's obviously got the experience. Not that it's been of much use for him, and I say that with the greatest of respect.
Exactly.
But to play devil's advocate hasn't really worked for him so far.
It hasn't, and that was it. And you could tell there was a needle between them two as well. So I just thought he was going to try and dig his heels in.
That was the Instagram comment, wasn't it?
Precisely.
The horse video.
Yeah. So that was going to rile him a bit more. But yeah, to finish in 4, I thought was good.
Yeah. And a few of our Instagram followers recently have been commenting that they feel that Okolie's skill set has been exposed over the past few fights, especially since the Matty Askin fight.
Okay.
So, interesting to keep those views, and do keep them coming.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a weird way, he's in a dangerous division, but it's made less dangerous because Usyk's not around.
Yeah.
If Usyk decides heavyweight's not for him, which I believe is fighting on May the 17th. Opponent not known, rumoured to be Takam, but not confirmed. Yeah, for me, I think he's a bit away from being a world champion, but at the same time, it depends on who holds the belts. And because Usyk collected everything was separated, which is the same thing with Klitschko, which is when there's a unified, undisputed champion and they leave all the belts, the good thing is they get spread out again. So now you've got a lot of different people that are cruiserweight champions, and you think, actually, you know what, in 6 months to a year's time, Okolie could get in with them. I know there's talk of Lebedev. I don't see that being a dangerous fight for him. There's a guy that we've worked with, Andrew Tabiti, coming out of the States. He's fighting in the World Boxing Super Series. I don't think Okolie should get near him.
Yeah.
They're both Nigerian as well, so they'll probably try and stay away from each other. But, likes of Dorticas, Breeders, Gassiv, these guys, they're smart and they're strong. So, yeah, you're right. Okolie needs to kind of watch out. But exposed, I think, is a bit harsh because he's getting there. Do you know what I mean?
He is, yeah.
So we have to, and I know people don't do it, which is interesting because I was going to ask you, have you noticed that out of nowhere the tide has turned against Okolie? It's really a bit negative, or has that always been there?
It's been there to some extent, but it was aggravated after that Matty Askin performance because obviously that event, maybe you could say, it was a rainy night at Wembley. The fans there wouldn't have taken it too well, and it didn't make great viewing on TV either. But maybe Okolie's demeanour doesn't help him at times either. There's no denying he's got power. Whether you like him or dislike him, objectively, he's always got I think a puncher's chance is too harsh, but he's always got that power to unsettle someone. You'd think even at heavyweight, his power could cause a few problems, or more than a few problems, but maybe his demeanour at times is something which comes back to bite him, whereas someone like Josh Buatsi could be forgiven for a similar sort of performance, but because of his demeanour, is very humble and down to earth, and he's very approachable. Yeah, there's no sense of my chin's in the air and I walk with my shoulders back.
Yeah. And for me, when I see Okolie, like even on the press conference, he was saying, to be fair, he said this year he's going to be a world champion. So if that's in his plan, I know. But do you know what? I look forward to seeing him trying to do it. That's all I will say on that matter. So what I do want to come back to you and is to get your thoughts on how it was resolved. But so it's 2 questions. What did you think of the Okolie sparring Dillian Whyte?
Yeah.
And how do you rate, or what do you think on how Dillian Whyte's brother, managed it at the press conference where he approached Okolie?
Answer to the first question, based on that 20 seconds, he looked like he gave a good account of himself. He could hold his own.
Yeah.
But as we say, 20 seconds out of 12 rounds is around about...
And that's even if it's 12.
That's even if it's 12.
It could be 10, it could be 3.
It could be 10, it could be 3.
Still 20 seconds.
It's like showing the highlight reel on Match of the Day and saying, we dictated the tempo to get a 1-0.
Yeah.
So, but going back to the way Dean handled the situation, it was a complete contrast to what had happened a year ago with his famous catchphrase against Derek Chisora. So it was nice to see that. And you could see that maybe the whole camp have matured to some extent. Dillian doesn't handle himself the way he would have done in December 2016 against Derek Chisora, that you don't see that now.
Yeah,
and if you do, it's behind closed doors.
Yes, yeah.
Whereas the same for Dean White as well. You know, the way that they can carry themselves. Maybe everyone's sort of taken a leaf out of the way Joshua has been pushed. Anthony Joshua comes across as someone very well behaved at face value. It's about the business.
Yeah.
Because it's marketability as well. It's all well and good being able to go into a ring and knock someone out, but it's the way you say it. It's not necessarily what you say, it's the way you say it.
Yeah, that commercial. And I think, you know what, it's a good point you raised, because when you look at it, actually, Joshua is the sort of standout. There's no denying it from a UK level, potentially a global. I think. But I'll say Canelo's the only one, but I do agree with you. Global level, he's still top 3. But it's a UK, he's the king. And you're right. I mean, even if you go back to when Joshua fought Dillian White, it was Dean White that jumped in the ring and was making out like he's got something hidden in his trousers, you know, and he's going to let off shots in the ring. Like, come on, dude. And we know that's not going to be real. But you see the way he's matured now. He's got his black box management. What I liked about that interview, it wasn't even him trying to shut Okolie down. He said, look, you're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to say it, but do things the right way. 22nd of a sparring, me and you were both there. We know that you wanted to do 10 and you didn't. After you know, he told him after 4. So he told him straight 4, and Okolie didn't deny it. He said after 4, you said that's enough.
Do you think he was intimidated, honestly?
Yes, in the sense that, look, Okolie, no matter what we would say, and not just him, a few of these boxers, that they are not necessarily bad boys. Do you know what I mean? Like, they may be a bit aggy and rough when it's a fight because they know they're about to fight somebody, but on the whole, they may not necessarily be bad boys in that sense. So
yeah, there's a difference between a South Londoner and a Jamaican.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I would say that for me, you got Dean White, who's probably the same size as him height-wise, weighs much more than him, and probably has less to lose in this situation. So you kind of talking up to him in a certain way, he's not going to help the scenario. And I do think probably the good thing is that Okolie didn't have his boys, because maybe if Okolie had his brother or somebody else around him, because he's got a couple of guys that like to think, maybe they might have hyped up. So I think that
they've been media trained, haven't they? That whole sort of element. Whereas Dean and Dillian, it's been quite late, they're media trained, because you know they're raw. That's their selling point. They're so raw. They're on the streets. Dillian, this is a quote from him. My dad used to say to me, so my dad used to say to other people, as long as he's not dead or in jail, I don't care. That's fine. If that's the benchmark, then obviously they're not gonna be media trained and, you know, politically correct. Like,
I mean, they
live in a different world, man. They came from a different world.
Exactly, and they're real guys. But don't get it twisted and think Joshua, maybe from a parental basis, is different. But he's also, do you know what I mean? And there's other guys, so it's not. It's more that I think the opportunity that they realised they had, they found it. Do you know what I mean? Whereas Joshua knew the opportunity that was in front of him and he prepared to build for it. So, like, you know, you're talking about the media train. Joshua started doing that pretty early, you know, just as he was working with Matchroom. Dillian White was working with Matchroom, but that wasn't Dillian's thing. So, but I like Dillian now because he's professional. I don't think it was. I don't think it is to this day. He just wants to say.
You put that well.
Yeah, you know. And the same with like a Fury. Fury's not that on that level. Do you know what I mean?
Thing either,
yeah, they just want to say what they're going to say.
Exactly, man.
And it's a balancing act because you know, I was bored of Joshua, and I'm not going to lie, I was bored of Joshua because it was all commercial deals. You know, you're saying I'm like fight Deontay Wilder. He's like he wants to fight Fury.
It's a triangle, a love triangle.
Yeah, but I would say this from Dean White and the Team White perspective, they really handled that well. You know, we didn't see anything on the night. That's what I was worried about on the night of the fight. And also, you extend the entourage. Everyone's hype. It's a boxing arena. And with everything that's been going on in the media, it's the last thing we needed to see was any type of violence stemming out of two professional boxers. So for me, I thought it was cracking that they just kind of got down to business. Also going to talk about this card that's taking place in Liverpool. Liam Smith versus Sam Eggington. Eggington lost to the Namibian guy, I remember, which was a bit of an upset.
Big upset.
I know. Yeah.
One of the biggest well, not one of the biggest upsets.
To be fair, it probably was. I mean, to be fair, it probably was. It's not that Sam Eggington was that known, but you're right. Nobody thought he was going to get knocked out the way he did. So what's your thoughts on that fight as a whole?
I think the build-up has been quite subdued by the public, as in the public reception to it, and probably for good reason. I mean, with Sam Eggington specifically, after that win against Paulie Malignaggi, that you'd have thought on paper that type of win would have resurrected his career, especially that was the fight which retired Paulie Malignaggi. But then, obviously, the banana skin against the Namibian fighter didn't serve to help him in any way, shape or form. And with regards to Liam Smith, again, there's no shame in losing to Canelo Alvarez, and there's definitely no shame in being stopped by him either. But again, just on that board, not really on the border of world level, more at the European level contention, that's where Liam Smith operates, whereas Sam Eggington hasn't ever really shattered the domestic ceiling. So it'd be interesting to see if Eggington can step up, because Liam is the A side in this.
Oh yeah,
there's no question of that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even think it's a question. I mean,
it's not.
I mean, even to be honest, when I realized they were fighting each other, it made me think, because Eddie Hearn does this. He's a bad boy when he does this. He puts people on the ship and say, listen, he pushes you off the ship, so and says sink or swim. And I think he's doing this with Eggington right now. I think we're witnessing that, because you got to say, after the loss, you know, these guys, from a business perspective, they can't carry all these fighters. And he's saying to himself, I've just signed Liam Smith. What better enticer to sign Liam Smith away from Frank Warren, which is his rival, than saying, listen, I'm going to give you a home debut in Liverpool and I'll put Sam Eggington on the plate. It's clearly what's happened there, because why would you place Sam Eggington against Liam Smith, you know? Yeah, so for me, I think that's going to be really interesting. Looking forward to that. There's also a bit of a grudge match. 2 Olympians, Fowler versus Fitzgerald. A lot of people saying they want Fitzgerald to win. What's your thoughts on the fight? And
I can see why people want Fitzgerald to win. A lot of them will be Cheeseman fans. And on that point, on that note, I think it's worth touching on that the Ted Cheeseman versus Anthony Fowler match was sanctioned by the board.
Yes.
And purse bids will go on in April, late April, for that date to be early to mid-June. And it sort of overshadowed what's in front of Anthony Fowler at the moment, because obviously he's got Fitzgerald to focus on. But obviously when it's public knowledge that something's been announced for the summer, then it's a different kettle of fish. So it's a bit underwhelming in that sense. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think for me, I do see Fowler winning. I think, you know, you look at from an Olympian perspective, I think it's agreed that Fowler's a higher level. I didn't watch much of them in the amateurs.
Yeah.
Obviously, again, Fowler, this is his opportunity to impress his hometown fans and get a bit of momentum. Like you said, the Cheeseman fight. So it's hard to see past Fowler. I would like to see a good, tough fight. Fowler
get the rounds in.
Yeah, get the rounds in. But also, I think maybe, I'm going to say Fowler's not really that humble. He is quite opinionated. And I guess they are what they are. You just got to live with it. But yeah, he's quite opinionated. So I would like to see someone who just put a bit of dig into him, you know?
Down to earth,
or just make him hold some punches.
You sound like a Cheeseman fan.
No, I am a Cheeseman fan. I think that's a tough fight for Cheeseman, to be fair, especially after.
You think he's underdog?
I think he turns into the underdog now.
Yeah, he has to be the B side.
Yeah,
financially too. Because you could argue Anthony's unbeaten and he's beaten better opponents, but he's headlined the O2.
Yeah, exactly. But it depends again. But if they make that Liverpool, do you know what I mean? It's,
what I mean? Straight, venue,
and that's where it can play. And they're neither of, again, it's one of those ones. There is no A or B side. You guys are just making your way up. Like, for me, A and B side really has to be your Mayweathers, your Joshuas.
That high? You don't think anything past European level you can sort of make a case for?
Not necessarily. I mean, I say make a case, but unless the person's got, but if neither of them have a belt, I'm like, I mean, I guess it's got back to your point with Kovalev and Yard, right? Because then Kovalev has the belt, so he should be. But again, I don't know. That's again, it's just my opinion.
Of course.
Everyone will think different. And then you got Price on the card as well. Listen, you think he's going to get logged? You know that what they said? They call him Timber. You think he's going to get chopped down?
I hope he doesn't, because I like him. You know that. Yeah. As a person as well. You know, boxing aside, he's a good guy. But Cash Ali's unbeaten.
Yep.
He's got, I think it's a 49% KO record.
Ratio,
so he's not really a puncher. But I mean, David's in a bit of an unfortunate position at the moment, and as mentioned recently by a few of the fans on Instagram. They said that it sort of undid the work or the progress that he'd made. When he went and knocked Povetkin, his stock, even though he got knocked out, doubled because of what he'd done. And then through no fault of his own, there was a controversy with the Matchroom judges. And then when Tom Little got stopped prematurely, all of a sudden that went back down to where it was. And it was sort of, it wasn't his own fault. This time, it wasn't his fault. It genuinely wasn't.
To be fair, and I will say you are right with Dave Price, when you do look at his career, and sort of like the hype that finished after Beijing 08, he's really been unlucky because he's fought guys that have then failed, but he's been knocked out by guys who then failed drugs tests, and it's like not once, twice. So you're like, and then he gets them in a rematch and he still gets knocked out. So I think, once you get knocked out, it's hard to recover from, as they say. But listen, we're going to open the lines up very, very quickly. Coming out to 041 041. The floor is yours. Hello. Yeah, not bad, not bad. How are you? Who's calling?
Yeah, William from West London, man.
Yes, how you going? How's it going, William?
How's it going, man?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I don't really have a lot to say today, but the only thing that I wanted to touch on you guys is do you think that from the comments that your boy Wilder was making today, Joshua will be taking a 50-50 fight split with him?
I think I do completely get what you're saying about the comments today would have definitely aggravated Matchroom in the sense that it increases Wilder's bargaining power. But at the same time, I don't think that Wilder's alone in that. I think that Tyson Fury signing a deal with ESPN, who are the biggest broadcaster of sports in the United States, is their equivalent of what Matchroom did with Joshua and Sky. So, but going back onto your initial question, yes, I do believe that it gives Deontay Wilder a lot of leverage. And for me personally, and this goes for Tyson Fury fight as well, I can't see Joshua fighting either of them now unless it's a 50-50 split. How about yourself?
But I mean, what I don't understand is Joshua has all the belts. So why would Wilder have a bigger bargaining, or all of a sudden have a bigger bargaining chip?
Yes, William. So look, this is Kojo speaking. So a good question. I would say, again, this is factual. What I think plays the difference here is the four belts regardless. I'll be honest, they play a part, but they play a smaller part because Wilder has the WBC, which is the most prestigious belt. You look at Ali, Tyson, whoever now. So that's one. I think the second most important thing here, which people aren't really speaking about, again, this is just my opinion from what I read and see, but I think we're seeing a bit of, what do they call it? It's like a dawn moment where we're seeing the money really shift to the United States. So there was the offer that that Matchroom made Wilder. He refused it on the principle of 20 million Brazil, 40 million for the first Joshua fight, 40 million for the second one. So it's like, well, if I win the first fight, why am I getting 40 million for the second one? Number one. But take that out of the equation, he can still generate a bit of money from this Brazil fight because it will be free to TV 2 weeks before Joshua fights Miller on the DAZN subscription. That's number two. But number three, I think the most important thing here is that he can go to Matchroom once the DAZN numbers come out and say, listen, you need this fight in the States. What are you going to generate? How can you generate more money than me? And I think at the moment, Matchroom have shown their hand and said they can't because they're offering Wilder 40 million, this much. He can say, listen, I will say 50-50 for the first fight, and then the second fight, we maybe go 60-40 or 60-35 or whatever. But the very first fight, I think those fights will happen, and I think Matchroom will concede that the first fight is 50-50. And then in a rematch, they'll have a different negotiation.
I find that hard to believe because from what you're saying now, that means that if Wilder were to win the first fight, then Joshua drops down to 40.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Because the thing is, Joshua now has to fight in the US. Like, as much as they're saying Miller and June is the debut, trust me, that is going to be the plan for the next 18 months because DAZN are spending money. So the DAZN pressure is coming on her and Joshua to say, you have to fight here to get our money up. So Joshua can't rely on Wembley Stadium as a negotiating power anymore. Do you know what I mean? And
but Josh is already going to New York to butter up that little baby face Miller.
Agreed, he is. But we don't know what kind of attendance, number one, or viewership they're going to get.
Oh.
Because Wilder's fight is free. Do you get my point here?
Who want to see Wilder fight the useless Beasley?
I mean, nobody. But just like nobody wants to see Joshua fight Miller, nobody wants to see Fury fight Schwartz. But they're all in their separate corners discussing how much money they can generate. And unfortunately, you could probably argue that Joshua is in a slightly weaker position because although DAZN have all the big money, they don't understand the market of boxing enough. Whereas you've got Arum, you've got Heyman, and again, in my opinion, they understand that market a lot better. And for those reasons, you know, don't forget, like when Joshua was offered 50 million, you know, everyone was saying this is $100 million fight back then. Do you know what I mean? And they said, we'll give you 50 as a minimum, but if you make more, it's 50% of everything on top. So, you know, they understand the US market, and, you know, Sky Sports have gone on record and said this, the money is crazy out in America at the moment. You know, so it's that shift. And I think, you know, there's competition for fighters, but investors, TV stations are pumping money in. That's just my opinion.
Man, if I was AJ, I'll hang them out to dry because none of them are mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
So why should he? If I was Josh, I would just play my hand, say no, fight Miller,
mm-hmm.
see how things go and things generate, and I'm sure that he'll get back up to where he needs to be.
So there's two things I'll say.
All this is just procrastination.
I agree.
Assuming.
Yeah. And no, it's procrastination in terms of the delaying the fight. What I will say, again, is my personal opinion, is the WBO fight, which is the Fury and Schwartz fight. Schwartz is ranked quite high. I think he's even number 2. He's number 2. Fury's ranked number 4, number 5. Should Fury beat Schwartz, which we expect him to do, he then becomes mandatory for Joshua. I can tell you now.
Exactly.
Yeah, but exactly. Joshua and Fury. Matchroom will not allow Fury and Joshua to go to purse bids. So the quickest way, 100%, because they could lose. So the quickest thing for them to do is to say, we'll get to 50-50. That's again, it's speculation. But the other issue for Joshua is really, and like it or you may not believe it, but I think the general public in boxing say, well, who are you going to fight next? We need to see you in with a killer. You know? So I think it's who is he? That's why I think he's going to have to concede the points, because he needs to get...
But that argument also goes for Wilder. So Wilder fights
Wilder
Beasley.
could
Who is he going to fight next?
He could fight Fury. Because they've already negotiated a deal. Fury just went away because he got a bigger offer from ESPN, which was huge. But they could go back to the table when they could have that negotiation. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
But anyway,
yes.
Anyway, that's what makes it all beautiful at the moment, because it's all about speculation.
Yes.
Anybody can chip it.
Yes.
And so we really see that the guys have their first fights. We really can't tell how this is going to swing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that period from May 18th to June 15th is going to be very interesting for the heavyweight division. So listen, William, we're going to move on.
You guys, are you going down? I want to go down New York, baby.
Bro, I'm New York for Joshua, so yeah. Holla at me, as they say.
All right.
Cheers.
Nice one, guys.
Cheers. Thank you very much. Appreciate the support.
Calling, man.
Cheers. Thanks.
All right, cool.
Cheers. Going out to 734. The line is yours. Hello.
Kojo.
What's going on?
What's happening, Kojo? It's D, man.
Yes. D. Long time, bro.
Yeah, bro. I had to bless the platform, man.
Damn.
Please do, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, bro. I will say quickly, how's Jamaica? For those that don't know, Dwayne used to call in a while back. You've been living it up in Jamaica. You doing well, bro?
Yeah, not too bad, man. Kingston to Hollywood and back again, bro.
Okay. We'll have to catch up on that. So what's on your mind, bro?
Definite. Yeah, I guess like listening to the last caller, the biggest subject in boxing is the whole Wilder thing at the moment. But I would like to still give some credit to Okolie. He gets a lot of criticism, but he done really well in his last fight against Waddy. Yeah, I like how he finished that fight.
Agreed. No, I was more or less saying the same thing. I think his style is a bit rough, but you got to give him credit. You know, he got him out of there quickly.
Yeah, because the thing with him as well, why I respect him is that although he doesn't put on the most entertaining displays, but he's fighting good opponents for where he's at. You know what I mean? He's fighting. He's going down the proper route: British, Commonwealth, European, etc. He's taken on the best fighters really in his division for his level. So I think he deserves some ratings. But as for the whole Wilder AJ fiasco, oh man, I don't even know where to start, Conroy, man.
Are you bored of it now? Does it bore you now?
Huh?
Does it bore you now?
You know what? Is that Tom as well, yeah?
No, this is Rafi. You haven't met Rafi yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, bless Rafi, bless. But no, I'm not bored of it. I'm just kind of frustrated with it all because there's so much like double standards and back and forth and hypocrisy and just all types of nonsense. I mean, I'm not happy that Wilder turned down the 100 million. I think that was a bit ridiculous because of all the criticism AJ received for turning down the 50.
Yeah.
And also, like, there's a few things that stood out to me, but one of the things that stood out to me as well was you had like Wilder saying he's his own boss and he's doing things his own way. But then at that press conference, when they had the media scrum, every time there was a significant question, bloody Shelley Finkel would be like, let me answer the business stuff. I was thinking, why are you saying, let you answer the business questions? Like, I thought you were just a manager. It seems like you're the businessman. Yeah. Also, I thought it was quite insulting to his coaches as well, that normally on a platform, the boxer's up there with his coach next to him. And Wilder's up there with Shelley Finkel next to him. You never really see that if you think about it. You never see the manager of the boxer on the platform. So it all seems a little bit weird.
That's a good point.
I could go on and on and on. I don't want to keep rubbing it on, but there's just loads of things about it that, cause for concern.
Yeah. Dwayne, do you think that another reason for that may be that in case Wilder blurts out the wrong thing that goes against the party narrative, that then could harm his side of negotiations because he's not a businessman, he's a fighter?
I think so, but the moment you take that as a potential reason, it kind of nullifies the point that they're making that Wilder's his own boss. Because if he's his own boss, he shouldn't need somebody to help him through a conversation. He should be dictating how the conversation goes. I guess if you was like running your own company, you might not be the specialist in every department, but you would be the boss, you know?
You would.
And it just seems to me like a lot of those Al Heyman fighters, like they're all under the PBC thing from the Charlo brothers to Earl Spence. They let them have their little promotion thing, Adrian Broner, about billions, but it's Al Heyman. Even on that press conference for the Brazil fight, it was BBC logos all over the stands. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, no.
So it's just all a bit of a funny thing. I don't like how boxing politics is just effing up the good fights because really and truly, we should have either seen Wilder vs Fury Part 2. Fury is to blame for that to some degree as well because he shot off to ESPN. We definitely should have seen AJ Wilder. I would say Wilder's to blame for that one because he didn't take the offer. He's going to fight Brazil free to air TV, but he could have got 20 mil for it. And then it would have been a guaranteed 2-fight thing against AJ. And then also, in regards to the percentages and all those aspects, you've got to bear in mind that it's not really looked at as the traditional way as far as 20% or 50% or whatever, because it's just an upfront payment that DAZN are putting up. So I feel like it's one thing to be concerned with what's AJ going to get, but the mindset should really be, I'm getting 100 million? Okay, pass me the paper and pen. I wouldn't really care about what the next man's getting.
But you know what, Dwayne? I think at face value, 100 million looks brilliant. You know, you're not going to get that money anywhere. But like, if you look what DAZN have done, they signed Canelo Alvarez, then they signed Golovkin, then they had Daniel Jacobs already, and they've got the 4 biggest names in that division all on the same platform. So in turn, just by having them all on the same platform, everyone gets paid 3 times what they would otherwise because of that exclusivity factor for the middleweights. Now, what could happen here is that it may look like suicide, like what's Wilder doing? Why is he turning down 100 million? But if he joins DAZN, him and Joshua on the same platform, then triples the revenue that DAZN will get because of all the marketing of being able to say, we've got the belt holders.
Yep.
So whatever Tyson Fury goes and does with ESPN, all the belt holders are on the same platform. And that then boosts everyone's revenue. Yeah.
But then bear in mind, with that said, that it would have effectively been 2 fights against AJ. He could just bring all those, say for example, Wilder wins. He brings all those heavyweight belts right back over to PBC, right back over to Showtime and Fox. He doesn't need to stay there.
And Dwayne, I just want to ask you, because this is why I have to say I was going to say on face value I was disappointed, but when I really looked through it and looked at numbers, I wasn't, because for me it's like, does it sound right to you that I fight you for the first fight, I get 40 million. I beat you, I get 40 million again. And you're not going to know what the opposing fighter is saying. And you are right, it's such a huge amount of money. It's his biggest purse. But I think what I was trying to say earlier to the previous caller is that, Heyman, these guys know the numbers that could be generated. So that's, they know that at this stage, 100 million is too small. 40 million for this fight is way too small. Last year, when he made that 50 million offer, they were probably banking on getting 40 million for the fight. So I do get why on the face value, and we're going to hear her, and it's easy to be, and I know you're not a follower, but it's easy to kind of be dissuaded. But I think if you look at it and say, do you know what, I can't hate him if the fight still happens, which I think it will, and then we get to see the true value. Because I think, you're giving me 40 million, but you don't even want to tell me what Joshua's earning. Is it 60? Is it 30? Is it 100? What if it was 140? Do you know what I mean?
But a point to consider when you look at it like that is when they made the 50 mil offer to AJ, they didn't disclose what Wilder was earning.
True. Don't forget.
They made the offer, and they also gave him a deadline as well,
which was dumb. I mean, the 24-hour deadline was bad. Appreciating though that was only they just wanted to hear Matchroom say, do they agree the offer? But I think the other thing you have to remember, which is slightly important in this, is that Joshua asked for 50 million. Wilder didn't ask for 40 million or 80 million.
Or 100.
Or 100. And that's where, for me, I think it is quite important, because Joshua went on record and said, you give me 50 million, I'll make my fight tomorrow in the States. Wilder hasn't made that kind of a statement to say, you give me 100 million, I'll make the money tomorrow. And the other important factor is the fight we now know is going to be in the US, not the UK. And it is, for me, it's a super fight. Do you know what I mean? And with super fights, you do get percentage splits. But yeah, before we... No, go. Rafi wants to ask a question back.
It was, DAZN have got a £1 billion budget, right?
They gave that
to Eddie Hearn.
But he doesn't have. It's still going to be in annual breakdown. So if for any reason they cut ties, then that whole billion doesn't go.
Of course. Yeah. But provisionally, for argument's sake,
Yeah, go on, sorry.
For provisionally, we'll say it's 100. We'll say it's $1 billion. I don't know how much you follow your football, but when Neymar went to from Barcelona to PSG, the whole world knew Barcelona had £200 million. So then when Coutinho went from Liverpool to Barcelona, that would have otherwise been 100. But because it's public knowledge that DAZN have got $1 billion, it's public knowledge that Barcelona had 200 million in the bank account. So they have to overpay.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, and to be fair though, and I do think they did that with the Brazil fight anyway.
Yeah.
Because I think what's probably out, because Brazil isn't worth 20 million, especially not as pay-per-view, but good on for Wilder, he's going to have to get that money. But Dwayne, before we let you go, I just wanted to get your thoughts quickly, because we haven't spoken in a while anyway, but Spence Garcia, did you get to watch that fight last 2 weekends ago?
Yeah, I did watch it, man. Yeah, it was entertaining display boxing. Yeah.
Yeah, what was your thoughts?
I wasn't surprised with anything I saw, to be honest. I think Spence is underrated, and it was a good opportunity for him to display his skill set.
Yeah.
You got to commend Mikey for having the courage to at least stepping up, but I don't know how anybody could have thought Mikey was going to beat Spence. It's just madness. Like, I think Sugar Ray Leonard and a few other high-profile legends of the sport said that they thought Spence was going to lose, like Bernard Hopkins and a few others. It's madness.
Yeah, I was like, what are they smoking over there? So listen, Dwayne, I've seen your number. Is that your number? I'm going to store that. The number.
Yeah, that's my new one, man.
That's a new one, yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to store that, and we'll hopefully get you back. If you're here for a while, we'll definitely get you back in the studio, mate.
No problem, man. And I'm still on the old number on WhatsApp, bro.
Okay, wicked. And I'll make sure I do that. Keep that one as well. I'm sure I've still got it. All right,
bro.
Cheers, mate.
Man.
Appreciate the call.
All right,
cheers, thanks. Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers. Yeah, no, it's good calls from somebody. And you know what? Actually, somebody that's listening, I should have said that. They said that the Pacquiao was offered 40 million, turned it down for Mayweather, and got 180 million in the end.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think, it's just to that point. Spence Garcia, we didn't get to touch on that show because we were busy, and we will say why afterwards. But what did you make of the fight?
I was a bit disappointed with hindsight, but I mean, it was a great fight in the sense that the hype, it lived up to the hype, because you saw Mikey Garcia, he was outclassed, but it wasn't for want of trying. He did his best, and he couldn't cope with Spence's power.
Yeah, and for me, I have to say, I was happy because I was telling guys, this guy Spence is the truth, and he showed it. And I know people will still say, "Oh," but yeah, I think there's going to be I don't think anyone will trouble him at 147. But I look forward to seeing him go on and hopefully acquire more belts. But just to quickly touch on last week, while there wasn't a show, last week we were kindly invited by Melt PR down to the Cayenne Prince Foundation, which was an award ceremony for Dr. Mark Prince. For those of you that may not know, Dr. Mark Prince, his son was stabbed going on 11, 12 years ago, if I'm correct, maybe longer. Yeah. Cayenne Prince, Northwest London kid, promising footballer, signed to QPR. And obviously with all the anger and emotion that Mark Prince had, he kind of set up a charity and foundation which sees him go into schools and talk to kids about violence, trying to stay away from violence. Mark Prince was a former boxer, so he understands discipline, he understands that energy and athletic mindset. So really, he's been going across schools. They said he's spoken to about 84,000 kids in the UK, which is a huge amount. So he was an OBE, and it was a nice ceremony down at the Criminal Old Bailey. So one of Raf's usual spots. But yeah, no, it was good to see him sort of being honoured, and we got to meet a lot of people. Obviously, Yard was there. I'm trying to say Harry Redknapp was there. I mean, John Rawlings. I mean, endless
Liam
names.
McKenzie, Dean White, everyone.
Exactly. Unlimited names from the boxing world. And yeah, really good event. Really honoured to have been there. So make sure you check out the footage on our online social medias to get follow-ups on that. But guys, we're gonna head out. So before I go, I'm gonna get two predictions from you: Fowler Fitzgerald and Smith Eggington.
Fowler and. It has to be Smith for me. It has to be. How about yourself?
It's Liverpool double, I think, Liverpool as well. Double? As much as I would like to, I want to see Fowler in a tough fight. I think it's going to be a Liverpool double. So,
what about a triple? David Price or Cash Ali?
Yeah, it's hard to back. I mean, you would say
you can't back it comfortably. Can you? You can't say it with confidence.
Honestly,
you can't say it with confidence.
I want to say Price, but yeah, if Ali's up for it, and he just lands. If his game plan is to just sock him one, it could work, because we saw that with Povetkin. So and many other fighters. So, and if he's tested afterwards, it will be too late, right? So
yeah.
So guys, listen, appreciate all the support and all the callers. For those guys listening to the future, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube. Check out our iTunes page, Raps on TV, our social media, Facebook, Instagram, all Raps on TV. Appreciate all the support as usual. We're out. Anything
Cheers,
you want
guys.
to say? Cheers. Take care, guys.